we are back on Play It Forward with Detsky Graffam, filmmaker, writer, director of 90 Degrees North is what we'll be talking about today. Detsky, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Would you like to introduce the film or yourself before we start?
Well, you've done a pretty good introduction of me. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director. I'm based in Berlin. And my film is called 90 Degrees North. And it's about a man who's stuck on a man-eating traffic island for a whole year.
And you guys, I mean, visually and the storyline and everything was very, very clean, extremely well, high quality film on multiple levels. The theme of it and the content of it is very appealing to me. I definitely can connect with it quite a bit. A man stuck on a traffic island. And I think one of the key lines that, as I reflected upon this film, was the other man who was stuck with him there, the man prior. And he said something like, we live in a civilized society. And so all we have to do is wait. And then there was the second thing. What was the second thing?
Wait and be rescued, I think.
Wait and be rescued, was it? Okay. So just,
I think
the civilized society, the faith in that will take care of you. So the very first question of Play It Forward is the germinal seed, the inspiration. Where did that live inside of you? And how did it come out as an idea for a movie?
So I think ideas grow in different ways. And this actually grew from an observation because I'm half German, but I lived in England for a very long time. And I came to Germany, and in England, people don't observe the traffic lights at all. But you can be standing at a completely desolate road at 5 o'clock in the morning in Berlin, and there'll be like 5 drunk people around you waiting for the green man. So Germans are absolutely religious about observing traffic lights. And I just thought this was a funny little thing. And then I fell asleep one night, and I had this sort of fevered dream about being kind of came to me, being stuck on a traffic island. And somehow on a personal level, it bonded at that moment because I was actually quite stuck. I'd just become a dad, which was brilliant, but I'd also been kind of a little bit stuck in my life creatively and didn't really know what the next steps would be and wasn't sort of thinking out of the box. And so those two things started to merge and meld together. And out of that grew the idea, which went through lots of different iterations until we finally found the end. And when we found the end, then we had to rewrite it to fit the end. So, and it's only then that we started to layer in a broader meaning into the film. Sort of gave it that extra layer.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think it's a fantastic way to describe the process of getting an idea started and how there's this conflicts of events and elements that really spawn this idea that you become passionate enough to then dedicate yourself to the capacity that you do to create a product as demanding as a short film. So I can definitely relate to being stuck. Everybody can. And the dad thing, I'm in 3.5 years, and there is one challenge, one, traffic island that you feel like you're never going to get out of. I mean, yeah, they're cute, they're cuddly, they're so amazing, blah, blah, blah. But it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare when you ask them to put on a pair of pants and they say, no, I want to wear shorts. I mean, what? And then and parenting styles today in our generation are so much different than they were probably when we were growing up. So anyway, that in itself, wow, man, like that is a full on challenge. On top of that, I can't even imagine being, not satisfied with your career. Actually, yes, I can imagine that as well. But so, very poignant piece. And then the message. So then the message of the movie now, and you spoke on this level of layering in the broader context, and I think we both know what you're talking about. I don't know if the audience will, they'll catch on. But how what you spoke of on a personal level relates to the broader social context. So now when I ask you, as a viewer watching the movie, what is the message of the movie?
So I have to be really honest with you, um, Constantine, that I'm really not very fond of this question
I knew it. I knew
because
I've interviewed about almost 100 people, right? Almost. And I was waiting for somebody to tell me this. I was waiting for an artist to say, "I don't want to talk about the message of my movies. It's for the audience." I was waiting for this. But
exactly, that's exactly it.
I will help us do
Um,
this together. Yeah.
I think I'll say this: what I really enjoy doing is finding a situation and a narrative that has sort of an allegorical meaning and can appeal um, on many levels, on a psychological level, on a social level, and on a political level. So and you try and boil it down to something very very simple. Um, and I think if I could probably say anything about the message of this film without kind of, I really don't like it when people talk about stuff and start saying what it all means. But I do think it's about um, looking afresh. It's thinking out of the box and trying to and how long it can take until you wake up and just look at something in a completely different way, and then hopefully you can somehow get out or change something or move on or have an impact or whatever it
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
is. In
appreciate
broad
you.
terms.
Thank you, Detsky, for going out on a limb, because as an artist, I can also understand the resistance to it on various levels. One, you don't want to indulge yourself in, sounding like you. And on the other is like, hey, let's, have the audience do some work and let the film speak for itself. And go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say what I
Yeah,
thought was really good, and now I'm going to get a bit pretentious, but
yeah, go for
the
it.
author Schiller in Germany, he once said someone gave him this big thing about Mary Stuart, one of his plays, and he talked about it for ages, and it gave this big interpretation. At the end of it, Schiller said, "I didn't see that in it, but it's true."
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's true, and I think
Yeah.
I prefer actually listening to other people hear what they think is in what the film's about.
I think that's great, man. I think that's great because there's room for everything. There's room for that too. That statement that Schiller makes is like that's also part of the point of making art. See, I take that statement as a very I don't see that as a satirical statement. Maybe he meant it that way, maybe not. I don't know, but to me, I find that very sincere because
Mm,
you know it's like one of the things about creating art is the self-reflection, and when you're done with it, what you think it is when you're doing it, when you're creating it, then what you think, writing it, what you think it is, or ideation stage, or what you think it is when you're shooting it, and then what it becomes in the editing room. Those are right three cycles that are changing and evolving. And then what you think it
definitely.
is 10 years from the date, and when you watch it, you're like, oh wow, I was really dealing with this, that, and the other, and that came through here, there, right? It's all like this mind body experience. And so I love it, that aspect of it, to a viewer saying, and that's one of the reasons I really enjoy talking about films to filmmakers about their movies, is pointing out things that they didn't see in their own movies about
Mm,
their own life. That's where I feel like, yeah, because there's something just so profound and inspiring about how these two things mirror who we are and how we engage with these physical objects and then mold them, and they reflect, it's all so manipulative. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree. No, no, I agree.
Oh,
I didn't have anything to say.
okay, sorry, I heard breath. So, the storyline and for me to kind of, because I would like to have the experience of speaking a little bit about the message of the film as I saw it, and then, together with the artist, because it's a very special thing to be able to do. And I think, ultimately you hit it right on the head. I mean, that's what it is. That is the, after I finished seeing the movie, what I wanted to see is part two. Now this guy goes home, and what's different? How does he live his life differently? And so to set it up, briefly for people who are going to be watching is like, hey, there's a guy, he's late for work, he's got a cell phone, he's wife's calling him, he ran out of gas, he hears somebody calling for help, he's a half decent guy, he's in a suit, he's a corporate guy, he's late for a meeting. That horrific, right? The horror of horrors to be late for a meeting. Boom, there's somebody stuck in the woods calling for him. He goes out there, it's a trap. And this monstrous traffic island, like you're saying, is held them captive. And anybody who tries to get off without a green light gets run over, right? Well, so the layers of the social constructs and us as individuals living within the society and obeying and following by the rules and being afraid to step outside of a line for fear of getting run over, metaphorically, literally, whatever. That's all there. We are trapped. And then you have this corporate guy, and then he has a cake, right? And this that. So he's prioritized his career in some way over his family, and now but he's held on to this legacy of the cake that keeps rotting and molding, and he's, and every time the car comes by, it drops off a little bit of carrot, right? There's a little bit of gold there. Here, you can stay on the island a little longer, feed, take care of yourself. Every time somebody gets run over. So it's like this analogy of our 21st century corporate life as individuals, and how do we get off that Ferris wheel or the hamster wheel? And he devises. He's the only one that we know who's been able to get off, and he devises this way to get off. And the way he gets out of it, it's not only just creative and kind of literally outside of the box, like you guys did, but he has to beat the game within the rules of the game, right? He uses the game's rules to beat the game. So
Exactly.
that is what I want to know. I want to know, how do we beat the game that we are all living in within the rules of the game?
Wow. I think, gosh, I don't know. I think the thing is starting to look at the world in a different way. I think that's the thing is. I'm going to say it wrong. Is it Heidegger? He again. I'm being pretentious, but the
That's
philosopher, he
fine,
said
man.
that. But he said he hates the word one. One should do this, one should do that, one should do this, and we have to. He actively kind of said you have to rename everything. You should literally start calling objects different things just to see the world afresh.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think that's maybe what this film is a little bit. It's just
yeah,
change it. It's the little first spark. Let's look at the situation a different way, um,
yeah,
and put on another lens.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
And I think the movie does suggest that in two ways. There is, like you're saying, this awareness, and then there's the creativity, right? The human creativity that this man has, and that creative faculty to get out of a problem and catapult himself out of this problem through the creative faculty. And it's to me, speaking to you and watching the movie has become a spiritual experience, because there's an elevation, right? That's the man has to find how to elevate his life and to overcome this, and I'm just seeing in my mind talking, I'm seeing this, the thing go and the right, and the road lays. How do you find that elevation? And it could be in different ways, creative outlets, creative pursuits, spiritual, whatever it might be. um and it's
Therapy.
a therapy. Therapy's a great outlet, man. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, not in my
Um,
case, but yeah,
what'd you say? Not in your case?
yeah, no,
It's not
no.
working. Is that
But
what you
I
mean?
think I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think also just. I mean, it sounds so kind of hacky, but slowing down and thinking about, you know, and having to reflect, being forced to reflect and to think about it.
yeah,
I mean, we take it to the complete extreme in this film, but
yeah. It's
we're
brilliant.
constantly. I mean, I'm feeling it right now. Actually, now with the Berlinale, the big film festival here in Berlin right now. We're watching so much content and being consuming so much and being fed all the time stuff.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm just uh, part of the thing of this character, I think, in 90 Degrees North is that he has he's forced kind of thinking,
that's a
just
great
to
point.
slow down, think,
Yeah,
not to be distracted
yeah,
the
yeah,
time, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out because I'm like seeing this film and thinking I'm like I'm all over it. And I'm like I missed that. Yeah, obviously the guy's there doing nothing for the, it's a great, great film. Um, I got one
So,
more question for you.
sure.
Since making the film, how have you been changed as a person?
And so, oh right, how does that? So, what did I learn? Do you think, or did you?
Could
So, I
be, could
think
be.
as a filmmaker, okay, I think as a filmmaker, hmm, it was very ambitious,
Yeah,
and I still think that that is something that one should aspire to, and try and push yourself and go that way. I definitely learned through the process not to hmm, uh, to sort of get through it. It was because it was so much to do, um, and there was so many scenes and so many things to film. There was a certain. I remember in the middle somewhere getting into a mode of let's get all right done like a to-do list, because there was so. And I think what that film taught me, because then my cameraman kind of came up to me and said, right, you know, stop ticking the boxes, take your time, cut some shots, and focus on the story and telling it in a yeah, so that you're not just sort of going through ticking off the shots. So that was one of the biggest things I think I learned through that film. Was to sort of not see it as this sort of what do you call it, production line, of shots. And I think collaboration was also now the. I mean, now I'm working on bigger projects with developing a couple of TV series at the moment, and on both of those projects, I'm now collaborating with a writer. So because I realized that through 90 Degrees North, because I had a writer come on board right at the end to help me through a little bit through the end bit, and then from then onwards, I've sort of now always worked with someone else because I just love the back and forth and banter. Is that the kind of thing you're looking for in that question, or did you want it?
Well, I personally wanted. I mean, I'm interested in all those things, but definitely, how has the living of your life changed? So certainly, what lessons have you learned? But what has been implemented?
Um, well, the good thing in Germany is that you have a that we that we have a funding system for films. So this short film got funded, and I'm now on the ladder of getting the next film funded. So that's on a sheer sort of practical thing because it was successful and it did all the festivals and everything. So that was great. Um, and I love short films. I hope I'll do another short film, but it was the stepping stone to doing the bigger projects. And I think it's um, we did. I'll tell you one thing. I'll be very honest with you. We filmed right outside Berlin, in a disused Russian airfield, and we built the island there, and it was logistically quite tricky. And we were there for 5 days, and it was uh, weather, accidents. It was a crazy shoot. It was a fun shoot, but it was a crazy shoot. And I came out of it feeling slightly traumatized because it was so. So I do remember, and it took me a little bit of time to kind of get back in the saddle a little bit because it was so intense. And then, of course, because it did well, and then that was the sort of the balm that kind of calmed me, and it all paid off, and it went, it did its rounds, and I did well as the thing, so that was fine. But I did go definitely through a stage where I was a little bit afraid of sort of going to that place again on set. I think George Lucas even said this at one point. He was always a little bit afraid of directing, and so it kind of put the winds in my sails to kind of think about how to let that not happen again. But it's so extremely stressful, and the projects since then have definitely benefited because of that, not wanting to end up there again in that place, not to say that the shoot wasn't brilliant. There were fantastic times, and we had, I still laugh a lot thinking about the shoot, but it
Totally
was quite
relate.
stressful.
I can totally relate. It is can be very challenging. I
Yeah.
certainly was on a set like that where I was a director, and they were ready to light me on fire. So I I can understand. Detsky Graffam. It's a beautiful
Well
film, man.
done.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being a show. It's a great film. I look more forward to seeing more of your stuff. Keep us posted. It was a pleasure meeting you, man.
Brilliant.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you. Thanks for the chat, Clancy. Fantastic.
All right, everybody. Till next time. That's it. Playing forward.